and it really snowballed from there in terms of how I was finding ingredients and then really trying to create for myself, what is this like super product? Like, what is this one thing? Because I don't want to have 100 products in terms of like, sustainability, accessibility, like not having all of these embarrassing things in my medicine cabinet or in my bag. And so that, really became like, how do we create synergy within this product and create something that's beautiful and not embarrassing and affirms you and speaks really like honestly and openly about our bodies and what we need to, kind of do to treat and care for them in kind, like loving ways.
Do you want to wake up feeling like you're stepping into who you're meant to be, into the best possible version of you? What if I told you that the key to your best life, health, and happiness are all around you? You just have to find what works for you. I'm Hope Pedraza, and I believe that there isn't just one way to live a healthy and meaningful life, and that all you need is a little inspiration to make changes that last from the inside out. Each week, I'll be sharing tangible tips and inspirational interviews to help you on your journey. These are the steps to take to improve your life and live with purpose. This is Hopeful and Wholesome. All right, y'all, let's jump in. I'm here with Lindsay, and I'm so excited to hear about her business, her company that we're going to talk about. And we are talking vaginal health today, which I'm excited about this, Lindsay, because this is not something we've talked about. We've talked about periods and menopause and all sorts of female hormonal things, but this is something we haven't talked about. So thanks so much for joining and bringing us this really important conversation.
Thank you, Hope. Thank you so much for having me join, and thanks for having Momotaro Apotheca. We're obviously very excited to talk about vaginal health. That's kind of our thing.
Yeah, I love it. So let's just start there. Can you kind of give us, I guess, kind of the background of why you started this company, what Momotaro Apotheca is, and how you got started?
Well, trigger warning to community listening to this. This is not a like PG rated story. You don't get into vaginal health accidentally, really. It definitely comes with a purpose. So, about 6-7 years ago, I found myself with a new partner, super exciting, super sexy, those first couple months of dating, fa la la. We were living up in Portland, Oregon at the time, lots of beautiful nature. And we were on a hike and we thought it was cute and cool to get sexy. And essentially I had sex somewhere I shouldn't have, in a hot spring. Sounded hot at the time.
Oh, no.
I was
sounded like a good idea.
And dumb. And I knew at the time I probably shouldn't do that. But, I ended up with this just like crazy yeast infection. I was a full-time photographer at the time, working in beauty and cosmetics. I was kind of frustrated with my job at the time anyways. And then all of a sudden I found myself in this position where not only did I get one yeast infection, I went to like over the counter to get, a monostat. And then I went to my OB-GYN and then Planned Parenthood. And it just turned into this cycle because I couldn't find really any resolution. And if I did find one, it turned into something else, right? You take an antibiotic and then you get a yeast infection, you take, an antifungal and then you get a UTI. And like those, a lot of these vaginal health conditions are connected. And a lot of the traditional treatments we've been offered are not like fail-safe solutions. A ton of people have these issues. I didn't know this at the time, but it just turned into this like recurrent cycle and something that ended up affecting my quality of life. And it totally snowballed from there. I decided to leave my job, pursue finding a solution full time, and basically created this like DIY vaginal health project on myself. If you can Google it, I have done it to my body, which I also highly do not recommend. But
trial by fire.
You're like, oh my gosh, I've gone to the doctor a million times. I'm not finding solutions. Is this affecting my relationship, my mental health? That the internet was the number one place that I felt like I could turn to, unfortunately.
Yeah. I think in this day and age, and I think there's so many people, and we have to have these conversations on the show all the time. There's so many people looking for alternative methods for all kinds of things. And I think that's kind of where we're all turning. It's like, well, let's see what Google has to say and see if we can find something either we can try on ourselves or somebody who seems like they know what they're talking about. And the fact that you've kind of done all this trial and error on yourself, and now you've like that's really a cool story. I mean, you tried all the things, and then you were able to build this company based on what did or didn't work. So let me ask you this. What did you end up like with your journey of, Dr. Google and all the things? What did you find was the most, like what, I guess, maybe, I don't know if I should say products or ingredients, or maybe both, did you find the most helpful in helping you deal with all of this?
Well, so, that's like an interesting question, right? Cause like it was both ends of the spectrum. Like, what did I find most helpful? And what did I also find most unhelpful, right? Like the trial by fire, I was like, wow, these ingredients are actually really harming my body. And it turned into this big deep dive into like medical journals that this is, statistically very common. And actually we're seeing recurrent vulval vaginal infections happen because we are using, these certain drugs. And then, you go, of course, and that doesn't even like speak to then like the whole problem and stigma of that space in and of itself, right? You're like, oh, I feel really gross and embarrassed going to this like quote unquote feminine care aisle.
Right.
I'm like, I don't want to buy a product that's telling me that like my hoo-ha should smell like a flower bomb. I'm like, that's just like really, it's just kind of gross to me. So like, then you go and you find these super like kind of, crunchy, holistic recommendations. And again, you're trying to figure out what is valid and what is not. I feel really grateful that I was kind of able to dig through the weeds in some of these and find ingredients and find products that like I did like, but nothing was perfect, right? I was like, okay, here's a really beautiful thing. Berberine, which is in tea tree and it's in Oregon grape, is clinically trialed and incredibly effective. But I didn't like the other ingredients that were in certain products. Or, say I was like, okay, I also like, if you have a yeast infection or bacterial vaginosis or a UTI, like your vulva can feel incredibly inflamed. I'm like, why am I not getting a product that's also soothing that? So, we dove deep into like calendula, again, clinically trialed, incredibly efficacious for soothing. And it really snowballed from there in terms of how I was finding ingredients and then really trying to create for myself, what is this like super product? Like, what is this one thing? Because I don't want to have 100 products in terms of like, sustainability, accessibility, like not having all of these embarrassing things in my medicine cabinet or in my bag. And so that, really became like, how do we create synergy within this product and create something that's beautiful and not embarrassing and affirms you and speaks really like honestly and openly about our bodies and what we need to, kind of do to treat and care for them in kind, like loving ways.
Yeah. And that was kind of leads me to what I wanted to ask you, because there is kind of this stigma. And I talk about this in terms of like periods and stuff. Like I had an episode a couple weeks ago where he talked about it. Like, there's some bills and things being passed in some states where girls aren't allowed to like ask questions about their period, and they're not teaching about periods and stuff. And I'm like, okay, like we all have one. Like, I don't know why we're making this like a weird thing. It's the same thing. Like every woman has a vagina. Like why are we acting like, well, it's the same thing when you hear people, when they don't teach their daughters, like the, anatomical names for parts, like a vagina, like let's call it what it is. It's a vagina. So what is, I guess, your thoughts? I'd love to give your thoughts on that and kind of the stigma that's around vaginal care and vaginal health and all of that, and how y'all are working, you and your company are working to really destigmatize.
Totally. I mean, it's a huge, huge part of our platform. I can't tell you how embarrassed I was going through this experience myself. And then even trying to like talk to friends early days about this. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm trying to find a solution and And even when I started this company, I told people I was working for someone because I like didn't want to take ownership over this, because I was like, I don't want to put my vagina on blast to the world and be like, ew, I'm so gross, I have a yeast infection, which now like, I mean, it's literally plastered all over walls and all over the internet. So like, it's kind of my program.
Here it is. It's out there.
Like this is, the first thing I say is these experiences and these like infections and discomforts are so common, right? Like 60 to 70% of people will have a yeast infection in their lives. 40 to 50% of those people will get them recurrently. 1 in 3 people have bacterial vaginosis. Like it just happens, right? Like it's totally all around us. And so I do think part of the destig is is talking about it, right? The more vulnerable I have been, the more open people have been with me, right? Like they tell me, they're like, oh my gosh, me too, is such a common thing. Or like, oh my gosh, I had the worst yeast infection of my life because I did this. And everybody has like a suffering story and an embarrassing story and a like, oh, I couldn't talk to my mom about this story. And it's really sad. And beyond the like internalized stigma and like bias that we hold within ourselves that like creates a lot of self-loathing and embarrassment and shyness, that perpetuates out into the world, right? And we see like kind of these like systemic oppressive notions around like vaginas being gross, or like everybody's making fun of them in pop culture and like talk about like fishy smells and things like that. And like, it's super harmful, right? I'm not such a square that I can't utilize humor and satire around some of these things. But like at the end of the day, for our company and in general within, you know, the population, there should be a empathetic baseline understanding around our bodies, around the anatomically correct words, you know, what happens to them. Like if you don't have a vagina, you have some sort of relationship with them. Even if you're a gay man, you came out of one, right?
Yeah.
And like, you've got friends, you've got family, you've got sisters, brothers. Like I experience questions in the world as an aunt or as a friend that like, you know, maybe don't necessarily pertain to me, but when we approach these subjects with empathy, I think we're able to provide, you know, more care and more honesty and like, I don't know, it's just a better understanding. But yeah, talking about these things are super important, and the destigmatization is really core to who we are as a brand.
Yeah. I love that. Well, and I love that you can kind of make light of it with, you know, how you're saying like a little bit of satire, a little bit like just kind of to lessen the, I don't know if shame, I guess there's shame associated with that, but just to lessen those. No, I like the approach there. So, okay. With the products that you have, because diving a little bit deeper into your company itself, what makes your products different than, I don't know, you know, traditional methods of dealing with things like UTIs and yeast infections and all that? And I guess the other side of that, what makes those other products more harmful than what you're doing?
So, you know, I think this is like kind of a two-pronged question, right? So when people think of the feminine care aisle, oftentimes they think of things like Summer's Eve and Vagisil and like these washes, you know, douching, things like that. This like very kind of a historical notion of what like, again, feminine care is. We don't use that word. We use vulvovaginal care. Again, this is like, let's level the playing field. This is not like a feminine issue. It's a vagina issue. And so, you know, and again, that aisle beyond those products, which are still very present, which just always blows my mind. There is, of course, then the more like acute symptomatic, medicines or ointments and things like that, which is like more where we come in, right? So you've got, you know, UTI supplements, you've got, you know, some anti-itch creams, you've got, various types of azoles and things like that, you know, for your yeast infections and BV and stuff like that. And so those are really where we compete. We make products that are certified organic, natural homeopathic alternatives to those products. So, there hasn't been a ton of innovation in those, sections, particularly BV, yeast, and UTIs over the last 30 years. And again, these were the conditions I was experiencing and looking for alternative resources for. And so that's what we do. We create alternative. Some are topical, some are homeopathic medicines, depending on the use case and the product itself. But that's one of the main differences. We are a plant-based, certified organic, plant-based option. No additives, no fragrances, no, you know, I mean, really anything. This is like the highest quality product you can put on your body in terms of if you want to put a organic plant-based product. There is literally nothing else in it. And so, you know, the goal there and what we do, and I think successfully have done, is we've created a really gentle yet efficacious alternative to that fem-care aisle, right? To the products that haven't seen a ton of innovation. And now, like we've seen, say, like with a lot of the azoles, like bacteria resistant strains, right? Like we know that doctors are prescribing diflucan at like 6 times the rate of which they once were. And we're also seeing resistance to that, which is really a bummer. And so people just aren't paying attention. And these are all studies they can send to you and link to you. These aren't, flamboyant numbers. And same with like UTIs. There's a ton of information that like not all the bacteria that causes UTIs is E. coli like they once thought it was. And also there are other ways to flush the system. So we really aim to include and innovate on different ingredients to make a more effective product that's treating these age-old issues in a new way. And we've had incredible success, which is awesome.
Yeah, that is awesome. So in your experience, I mean, I know you're not a doctor, but in your experience, because I'm sure you talk to a ton of women, and you've done the research yourself, because those numbers are like, it's crazy. The numbers that you just said are crazy. What do you see as some of the reasons or potential reasons why these incidents are so much more prevalent of UTIs?
Yeah, totally. And I'm, of course, I am not a doctor, and we work heavily and formulate with doctors, pharmacologists, naturopaths, a whole slew, Chinese medicine doctors, of people that really help us. Which is really fun. We find all these people that are interested in kind of like weighing in because they're seeing like the same systemic frustrations. There's a whole myriad of reasons why, and it's hard to pinpoint one, right? Because every body is different, and every, the way we interact with the world is different. But, there's like these issues are very common comorbidities of other issues. So other things that your body has experienced, whether it's stress, immunocompromisation, other medications that we're taking, environmental factors, gut health factors, the underwear we wear, like all of those things, the sex we're having, the lube we're using, all can play into exacerbating vulvovaginal health conditions. So it's like, pick your poison, right? And, I say that, but, and this is where some of the satire comes back in. We also don't expect, this like super precious wellness culture, right? Like we just contributed to this article and it was like, wellness is for well people. Like I drink alcohol, I have a drink. Sometimes I have rough sex and like, I don't, late night piece of pizza. Like I'm not perfect. And that's also part of enjoying my life. But like, I also now have products and things that like help me deal with those issues. I have a super sensitive system. If I have too many sugary cocktails on a Friday night, I know, I'm going to have some itching and inflammation the next day because I'm really sensitive to sugar.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and I mean, it is, I think that's the answer you gave was the answer for pretty much anything, but I like that you were able to, pinpoint like these are generally what it is. Cause it's never just one thing and it's always a compilation of things. Right. But I do want to ask you about the traditional feminine care products that are out there right now. And because I know that can contribute to some things too. And their potential, what's the word I'm looking for? They can potentially be harmful to, our vaginal health. So what do you see as kind of what's going on in that just kind of the traditional feminine care? I guess just the products that are out there right now.
A big one is, various chemical compounds that are endocrine disruptors, phthalates, things like that. Those are highly problematic for a lot of reasons, but obviously very big in the sexual health and vaginal health field. Douching is one that I think is finally kind of going out of style. Like putting anything with fragrance up your vagina is harmful, right? You have a vaginal microbiome, and so that to me is a big no-no. And I think hopefully, but I still see them there. And even things as simple as like the feminine washes, right? Your vulva skin doesn't need to be stripped of all of its natural like microbes. It's again, it's not a dirty place, right? Like we've been taught to like wash and cleanse our vaginas. And this is kind of an interesting thing that like we get asked a lot. They're like, well, the vagina is self-cleaning. I'm like, yeah, the vagina is self-cleaning. Like discharge comes out, but that doesn't mean it's self-fulfilling. You can still use products like ours to aid in your, or sorry, to, I guess, get rid of your discomfort, right? Like, my vulva is inflamed, the discharge coming out of that isn't changing that, but it doesn't mean that it's dirty, right? Like I don't have to wash and get that discharge out. That's actually what your body is doing naturally. So, those to me are the big, like really simple ones that like you can change. Lube, again, lube has been created and marketed to like people to like taste good, and like people are putting like, again, sugars in their lubes. And that's something like, if you're having penetrative sex and you have a like mint chocolate chip flavored lube going up your vagina, that's all that fragrance, that's all of those like chemical additive dye, all of those, that's super super irritating. Like you wouldn't eat it, and like your vaginal walls or our mucous membranes are highly absorbent. So those I feel like are really simple, easy ones for people to grasp onto and be like, oh yeah, duh.
Yeah. Well, and I think like you're talking about the people think it's unclean. I mean, it's amazing to me that we're, again, like y'all are doing such a good job at destigmatizing all of this, but it's amazing to me that we're still, it's, back in the, whatever, like 1500s, or women were unclean when they were on their period and they had to go and like hide away. And so like, it's like in a sense, like there's still, that still exists. Like we're unclean because we, bleed for a week out of the month or whatever. Like, it's just kind of blows my mind, which again, like every woman has a period. Like, why are we making it a weird thing?
Like, how do you expect, like you make life with your body, right? It's kind of complicated. Like you've got this whole roadmap inside of you that just like does its thing. And each month it's like, okay, we're not having a baby. So I'm going to like, recycle through, push out this like unwanted or unneeded, if you will, like uterine lining, and get ready to potentially drop an egg to make another human just in case, because you know what? You can do that. And like, that's complicated.
Yeah, no kidding. Like, I think I don't think people really understand what, like the miracle of life takes all of these things and like this innate system we have that creates a human. But then at some point, some man back in 1400 something decided that we were unclean. I don't know. That blows my mind. And that we don't really think like the process that's taking place, like what a powerful thing that is. And I just find that really interesting that conversation can still be had now. But, thanks to companies like yours, we can change the conversation, but it does.
And it exists. I mean, in the US, it's a little bit more, I guess, common that we can have these conversations, but I mean, all over the world, like places in Africa, you literally still have to like go sleep outside. And like not go to school, and like sustainability is a huge part of our company morals as well. And one of the best things that you can do right now is like globally to prevent global warming, they say, is to educate women and girls, which is like kind of unrelated to what we're talking about, but it's a huge part of our platform, is that like keeping girls in school, not sending them away because they're on their periods, not, is really, really important.
Right. Yeah, no, it makes total sense. One of it goes back to what I was saying before, where there's, some states that are keeping girls from learning about their periods and about their bodies. Like that, I'm mind blown that that's even a conversation where, we'd keep our girls from learning how, like,
and combine that with the reversal of Roe v. Wade. How do you expect people to understand their bodies and the possibility of getting pregnancy and mitigate that when contraception is not widely available, when they're not learning about what a period is, I mean, sex education is pervasively under taught, if taught at all, or taught incorrectly, right?
Exactly. That's exactly it. Well, and like, the episode I did a couple weeks ago, I was saying like, at least when I went to public school, it was like a woman has a period and they get pregnant. Like, okay, like that was the extent of it. Like there was no explanation about the cycle, what happens to your body. Like there was nothing. And I know it's not any better now unless, maybe a mom takes a daughter somewhere else to learn about it, but they're not teaching it in school. And then now you have schools that aren't even teaching about it. So yeah, I mean, I think I love y'all's mission with the sustainability. And I think that's a huge piece, and to keep girls in school and educate them. And I mean, that's
Yeah,
huge.
it's all connected, right? And like that's kind of part of this and how we like to approach this business and the destigmatization in general. Like we are all connected, like how we act, how we treat people, how we treat the planet, and our sexual health is kind of intrinsically tied to that, right? Like you wake up every morning with the ability to potentially get pregnant, or like, whether it's from puberty to menopause, like that's a whole lifelong relationship with your sexuality and your menstrual health and all of these things.
Yeah, for sure. Is there anything that you can speak to as far as preventative care? Like, you have all of these products that are helping kind of deal with the issues that come up, but is there anything that we can do? Then maybe these are some of the products that you have, but maybe is there preventative things that you can talk about?
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I think there's absolutely like lifestyle changes that you can make that are super helpful. Yes, we make products, and again, we create preventative care products because most of the products on the shelf are like post-acute symptomatic. So it's like, oh crap,
Right.
I have a yeast infection. What do I do?
You're already there.
For most people that have gotten recurrent yeast infections or have vaginal irritation, they're like, oh my God, I know it's coming. How do I prevent this? And like, so we create a very effective product for that, which has changed like,
awesome.
plenty of lives, including my own. But, big ones, obviously drink a ton of water. We're supposed to drink about half of our body weight in ounces a day in water, which is great. Like I usually find a water bottle that I can fill up like a certain amount of times. That really helps me like stay on track. Breathable cotton underwear. I'm guilty of wearing like slutty cheap lingerie sometimes because I like it and I'm not rich. Like it makes me feel good. But like if you're gonna do that, wear it for as short a time as possible. Do not sleep in it. If you can manage, like don't wear under jeans and clothes that are going to irritate you. I love a big cotton panty too, thong. I think it can be sexy. Like let's change the narrative there. Sleep naked is a good one. I like letting your vulva breathe at night. Bacteria breeds in wet, dark, damp places. And so like giving your vulva a chance to breathe is really important. Probiotic, which obviously requires a product, but it's a big game changer for me. I had a ton of gut and digestive issues. I'm obsessed with eating all sorts of spicy street food and things. So this is a big one for me. It just helps keep all of, the lactobacillus and like good, like kind of bacteria that you need to balance your gut and then vaginal microbiome. It also helps with your immune response. Stress and sleep are very important. Cortisol production is bad for every cell in your body. If you can not be stressed, highly recommend it. Take a walk, do the things. Same with sleep. Sleep is obviously very important. Your diet too. If you don't want to take a probiotic, obviously there are probiotic rich foods that you can have, whether it's like sauerkraut or yogurt, tons of leafy greens if possible, and fruit when you can. If you're not too sensitive to sugar, sometimes fruit is even too much for some people. But those are kind of like my big ones. And then if you do have, the financial means to add something to your regimen, and you're looking for, additional comfort, the salve, which is our hero product, is something I use every single day. I'm very sensitive. And again, people don't know this, period blood is a different pH than your vaginal pH. And so it can be actually very irritating. So if people start to feel itching and irritation around their period, that can sometimes be why. So I use it anytime I'm like before, after I'm menstruating, anytime after penetrative sex. Condoms can be very, very irritating for some people, whether it's latex allergies or not. Again, you're creating a ton of friction in your body, which can create micro tearing. Again, opportunity for bacteria to enter into the mucous membrane and cause irritation. So again, I use the salve after that. So there's a lot of opportunities, right? I always tell people the best way to like feel your vagina, unless it's for pleasure, is to like not feel it. Like I'm like, I don't want to be like thinking about it. So
totally,
these products have really helped me do that. I'm like, I wake up and I'm like, oh, okay, like, and I mean, it's so nice because especially with the salve, which is again, like the first product we created, it's cooling on effect. It like cools, feels good. I get that like positive reinforcement, and then I like go on with my day.
Yeah, I don't have to think about it. Yeah. Those are such good tips. I appreciate all of those. Those are perfect because I was going to ask you for tangible things, but then you just did it. So that was perfect. So I do have another question as we start to wrap up. One last question. But before I do that, can you let everybody know where they can find out more about Momotaro Apotheca and what you're doing and all of your products?
So you can find us on our website is momotaroapotheca.com. And I don't even know if I should spell it. It's really long.
It's okay. I'll have it on.
Or if you're on Instagram, we're really active on Instagram. Our Instagram is Love Momotaro. We're really hands-on team. So if you visit our website or our Instagram, like there are real people, like our chatbot is a real person on our team answering questions about, your like vulvovaginal health and the products and what might work for you. We have a really awesome like AI quiz that's helped people kind of match their discomfort with what products might help them. And those are kind of the best places to find us. We're also available on Amazon if that's easier for some people, which is nice, especially they are able to offer like immediate shipping where a small business like ours is not, which is nice.
Yeah, very cool. Lots of places to find the things. I love that y'all have a live chat. That's amazing. How supportive. I love that. You don't find that really often.
Like kind of fun and cool because people don't realize it, and they like will be like, ask help, like give the like AI word. And we're like, hey, what's up? Like,
right.
No, it's cool, we're here. And they're like, oh my God. Like, I just had the worst sex of my life.
That's
and I'm
awesome.
in total pain. What do I do?
That's so great, man. How great is that for like customer feedback though? Like getting like knowing what your customers need and like actually being able to like talk directly to the consumer. Like I feel like that's probably a really powerful way to, perfect what you're offering and stuff.
I mean, we started Momotaro to like solve my issues, and we launched with a suite of 3 products. And, after that, and as we grew and as we began to build this brand, which really was a brand that was community oriented because it was so much, not just the issue I was experiencing, but the cultural like stigma, relationship of fem-care, solving these issues that like it really turned into this kind of family. And so we started having people coming to us be like, does this work for lichen sclerosis? Can I use this for postpartum care? What about this? And so we really created a like network and suite and did back research on the products we currently had on like how to talk about like the myriad of issues that we solve for. We do a ton with pelvic health pain, endometriosis, PCOS, even have gone as far to research, like say diabetes medication is very commonly associated with vaginal dryness. How are we treating that? And things like that. So we really have used these conversations and talking to people and really trying to hear their needs to expand what we do as a brand. And we will always continue to do that.
Yeah. I love that. That's amazing. Okay. I have one last question I want to ask you. I like to ask everybody this question. I like to hear everybody's different mindsets around this. What do you think is the most important thing you can do to live with purpose?
Find your joy, truly like seek and find your own happiness. Turn off social media if you can. Coming from a person who runs an online brand still, I think, you have to find your joy before you can find your purpose. And maybe your purpose is just joy. Everybody doesn't need to have this big high flying, career, I don't know. I feel like Americans in particular have, been taught to live to work, but like, sometimes it's okay to work to live. I think the pandemic has changed my perspective. I do enjoy working. I like working hard. I find a ton of satisfaction out of this job. It gave me a place for my politics and all of those things. But find your joy, truly.
I love that. That's perfect. Thank you so much, Lindsay. So much good information on a topic that we just don't talk about enough. So thank you for spending your time with us and giving your expertise and sharing all of your just really valuable information. Thank you so much for spending time with us.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to Hopeful and Wholesome, y'all. If you found value in this week's episode, please subscribe on iTunes or wherever you listen to your podcast and leave a review to let me know what you thought. I'd love to know what you find useful in these episodes so I can know how to provide the most value I can to my listeners. And if you have topics you'd like to know more about, I'd love to hear those as well. So shoot me a message on Instagram, Facebook, or LinkedIn. It's @TheHopePedraza, or you can visit my website, hopefulandwholesome.com. Thanks, y'all.